Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? With that information I collected yesterday, I went inside and I made a plan with the numbers. So yesterday evening, I gave these animals another 3 buckets of grain. These animals actually they left a little bit of it behind last night. So I figured these animals right now, their absolute limit for how much they will willingly eat throughout a day is 8 buckets of grain. If I give these animals 8 buckets of grain, they'll actually start rejecting their feed throughout the day. And so what I did was I went inside and I just thought about it, and I penciled the numbers out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give these animals 7 buckets of grain a day. So I'm gonna give them 4 in the morning and 3 in the evening. And it just started drizzling. It wasn't supposed to be. The weather forecast was saying that the chance of rain was very low this morning, but it's actually drizzling. But yep. These animals, I'm gonna give them 7 buckets of grain a day, 4 buckets in the morning, 3 buckets in the evening. And they got about 80 days here left. About 80 days is when they'll be going to market. And so in those 80 days, I'd like each animal to put on about 175, 180 pounds. If I can get each one of these animals to put on 180 pounds, I got 25 animals going to market, and I got 2 animals that I'm keeping to process here myself. If I can get these animals to put on 180 pounds each, these animals collectively will put on about, I think the numbers are like 4,000 or 4,500 pounds or something like that. Somewhere between 4,000 to 4,500 pounds is how much weight I'd like to put on these animals as a collective, the 25 animals as a collective over the next 80 days. And it's going to cost me about $3,200 to do that. So if I just absolutely just maximize how much these animals will eat, they just start rejecting their feed, it'll cost me about $3,200 over the. It'll cost me about $1,000 to about $1,100-$1,200 a month, and I have the credit to do that right now. I could do that 10 times over if I felt like it. I have about $16,000 left on my credit lines this year, and so and I have a lot of taxes that will be coming up next year unless I invest this capital into this business. And so I'm just going to give these animals as much as they are willing to. Well, to a certain point. It's important to remember that these animals, they still need their forage portion of the diet. I'm not giving them any dry forage, and these animals aren't on a dry lot. They're on a field of grass. And so these animals, they're gonna have to go walk this field to eat grass to get their forage in for the day. And so if these animals will only eat 8 buckets of grain before they give up their food, I'm just gonna give them 7. I'm gonna give them 7 with the intention that they go and they eat some grass, because they need that grass to keep their rumen happy. Their rumen needs that grass in it. They can't. Well, I mean, they probably can eat a whole bunch of grain, just all straight grain, but I don't think that that's a good idea. I think that this grain that I give them is like 40 or 45% corn, about 50% corn. About half of it is corn, and then the rest of it is like wheat, alfalfa, and like almond hulls. And so I don't think that it's that good of an idea for them to just eat straight grain. They need to get a little bit of roughage in their gut. They need to get a little bit of that forage in their gut. And so if these animals will eat 8 buckets of grain, I'm just going to give them 7. And with the numbers right now, if I put $3,200 into these animals, and I can put 4,000 to 4,500 pounds on these animals, if I make $1 a pound, I net profit $1,300. So right now I'm in a situation where I'm perpetually just having way too much capital. The amount of like me, I'm 31 years old, right? I don't got any kids, if my ship sinks, I'm the only person on it, right? And so like my capacity to take risk is astronomical. And so I may as well just my big thing is that I'm just looking like you know, at the end of the day, like if it's just me, if I have $2,500 a month, I can cover all of my expenses. About $2,800 a month, I can cover all of my expenses. My truck, my house, everything. $2,800 a month is what I need to cover all of my expenses. So why would I sit around with $45,000 in my bank account? If I sit around with, if I have $45,000 in my bank account and I go through another hurt, I may I know that this may be kind of there is just zero reason for me to have that much cash, right? I would rather invest than have that much capital just sitting around. But if I invest and my assets appreciate, I run into a situation where I perpetually just have way too much capital. And I need to invest the capital or I'm going to pay taxes. At the end of the year, if I just sat there on my hands with and I didn't pay back any debt, and I just sat there on my hands with all the capital that I earned for the year, I may have over $100,000. And so that's what it's looking like right now. Like if I go through this lot of cattle and I take them to market, I got my tax benefits from last year and I put that money together, I'm already sitting on about $40,000. If I make money on my hay, you know, if I make $10,000-$20,000 on my hay, I'm sitting on $50,000-$60,000. And then if I bring in another lot of cattle and I do that on debt instead of using my cash, and then I make money on them and I get my tax benefits, that may turn into, well, it may not be $100,000, but it's gonna be like $75,000-$90,000. And why would I sit there with $75,000-$90,000? What's gonna happen if I sit there with $75,000-$90,000 is I'm gonna have to pay a boatload of taxes, a whole lot of taxes. And I ain't looking to write a check for you know, like $35,000-$40,000 for taxes. And so I need to stay ahead of this thing, or I'm gonna owe a lot of money in taxes. It's use it or lose it. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm the only person on my ship. I mean, you know, if I have $2,800 a month, I pay for everything. I pay for my truck, I pay for my mortgage, I pay for my insurance, I pay for everything. And so it doesn't really matter to me. Well, I'm not saying it don't matter. It matters a lot to me. What I'm doing matters a lot. But I'm saying in terms of me having like a $100,000 in my bank account, that ain't important to me. That much. I would rather not have that kind of money in my bank account. Well, because I mean, it's not going to be doing anything, right? I mean, that money, if I have $50,000 in my bank account today, and it's at 0% interest, in 10 years, I'll still have $50,000. And so I got to invest that capital. I have to invest it or I'll get taxed. That's the name of the game right now. Either I pay taxes or I invest it. And if I invested, I have an investment strategy made for this year. For the amount of capital that I'll be circulating this year, I have an investment strategy. And the investment strategy is to take a look at how much money I'm making. I'm gonna take that amount and I'm gonna get leverage for that amount. I'm gonna go to the bank and I'm gonna ask for a loan for that amount. I'm gonna talk to the banker. If I have to put up collateral for it, I'd be willing to do that. And I'm also gonna pay off my truck. I have about $15,000 left of debt on my truck, and the payment is a few $100s a month. And I'm gonna pay off my truck. I'm gonna flat off pay off my truck this year. If I pay off my truck and I pay off all of my equipment, that opens up about $650 a month for me immediately. And that $650, if I leverage it on 20 years. At a 5% interest, that $650 will get me about close to $100,000 from the bank. And so if I take the $650 a month, leverage it for $100,000, and then I'd be willing to put up $350 more a month. If I put up $1,000 a month I'd be able to leverage for about $150,000. And if I get 150, well, I need more land. I need more land investments. If I get more land investments, I can invest in more cattle. But you know, because before I can raise cattle, I need grass. And I got a piece of property. I know I've been saying I don't want to rent. I don't want to rent. I don't want to rent. I want to own land. But there's a piece of land. It's about 135 acres, and it's about a half an hour from Dallas, but up to the north. And they're renting 135 acres, and it's about 75% pasture land. And they're renting it for $5,000 a year. And so I was like, you know what? If I paid the $5,000 a year and I rented the 135 acres, I could grow hay on it and bring it here to feed my calves, to feed the cattle, my cattle. And so, yep. I put in my application for it yesterday, and in all honesty, I told myself, well, if I get it, that's great. But if I don't, that's perfectly fine too. That's great too. You know, realistically, for $5,000 a year, in terms of net loss, I could actually purchase about 75 to 100 acres myself if I leveraged it. And then I considered the amount of equity that was going into the property every month with every single payment, as well as the tax deductions that I would receive from operating a farm on that farm. I would actually net a loss of about $5,000 a year to have about 75, 100 acres of land that I own myself if I took a loan from the USDA at a rate of about 3.75 to 4% on a 30-year loan. And so I thought about it, and I put in my application for it last year. But even if I don't get it, it's perfectly fine. I'll go and I'm looking to buy my own piece of land, and my paperwork is going to be squared away for it by next year. I'm going to be making a lot of money on this farm this year, just because of the various reasons. Like I netted a profit of about $8,400 since last year, just because of tax benefits from having these cattle. And so if I didn't have these cattle, and if I wasn't operating this business, I would have lost $8,400 just because of tax purposes. And so I've already made about $8,400. If I sell these animals and I make $6,000 or $6,000 on them as a net profit, that'll be about $15,000 that I made this year. And it's only April, or it'll only be about halfway through the year, and I haven't even started cutting hay yet. If I make money with the hay and then I bring in a second crop of cattle, I mean, the money is I'm legitimately going to be making like something like when the USDA looks at my paperwork, they're going to be like, man, you made like 75 grand on 10 acres. And I'm going to be like, yep. I'm not going to tell them that. Well, I mean, they'll find out. The bankers always find out. The bankers, they always find out. If whatever's going on with the financials, if I have to file paperwork, they always find out everything that's going on with my paperwork. And so the best thing to do is to just be honest. Just tell them, hey man, I'm not going to talk to them about things like I got an $1,100 mortgage. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about, hey man, I got a $500,000 in assets already. I got a $500,000 in assets when considering my cattle, my tractors, my business, my land. I got a $500,000 in assets already that I'm looking to leverage for, and I'm looking to leverage for another $500,000 in assets. That's the conversation that I would have with the banker. I don't go in there and I talk about, oh man, my mortgage is $1,200 a month, or I pay $1,000 a month to raise my cattle. I don't talk about stuff like that. The banker will find out. The banker already knows. Like if I talk to a banker and I talk about a loan for $75,000 a year on a 20-year finance, they already know that that's about $500 a month. And so the bankers know. The bankers know exactly what I'm talking about. And so yep. But that's the big thing right now. Is that these cattle, I'm collectively looking to put about, I got 25 animals going to market, and then I got 2 animals that I'm gonna keep to raise myself for processing. Like this is Princess right here. She's gonna be kept here, and I'm looking to collectively put about 4,000 to 4,500 pounds on these animals, the 25 animals, over the next 80 days, and about the next 80 to 85 days. And then I'm gonna pay to have them hauled over to East Texas. So they're gonna have to go about 2 hours east of here, but I believe that that would be a better market for these animals, and that would also give me a chance to go in there and see what's going on, because that's one of the spots that I'm looking at in terms of getting preconditioned cattle. Like if I'm looking to buy $35,000 worth of cattle in one transaction, that's the place to do it. And so I could go in there and I could buy two or three lot of cattle, and I could spend $100,000. And I ain't gonna say spend. I can invest $75,000 to $100,000 in 3 transactions over there, 2 to 3 transactions over there. And they got people who grade cattle over there. They grade their cattle before they grade their cattle, and so I'll know that I'm getting a number 1 animal. I'll know that I'm getting a herd of number 1 animals. And so and if I just get a decent price on them, I'll call it a day. And so I'm gonna take all these animals, I'm gonna have them hauled over to East Texas. It'll take me about 2 hours. It'll take about 2 hours for these animals to get over there, and I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna take a look at what's going on at that sale barn. And yep, that's where these animals are going full circle. These animals, they'll be going to East Texas here in about 80 days, 80 to 85 days. And they're gonna be real, they're gonna be a whole lot heavier. But these animals, when they're small like this, when they're growing, it's very difficult to get them real fat, because these animals, they'll eat a whole bunch of food and then they'll just grow. They'll get taller, they'll get longer, they'll just continue to grow. And so until these animals have maximized their frame size, it's real difficult to get them real fat. I mean, to get a young animal that is real fat, it's got to be done. A good portion of it has to be done genetically. That animal has to be an animal that is genetically capable of getting fat. You know, because like the way to think about it, I think, is that some people, like when I look at, I think that people know, like when they see somebody that eats a lot of food and they go, man, this person eats a lot of food. It's the same way with cattle. I remember I've had one animal in the past. I actually had named her Gordita for a little fat girl, but she would eat a lot. And I mean, I was like, whoa, this animal eats a lot of food. But I haven't seen an animal that's done that since her. I mean, I have never seen an animal eat so much food. But if I had a herd of animals like that, I could probably get them extremely fat at a young age. But for a majority of animals, it's very difficult to get them like huge when they're young, because they'll just continue to grow. They'll get taller, and then they'll get longer, they'll get taller, they'll stop eating, etc., etc. And so to get a whole bunch of calves very fat at a very young age is incredibly difficult. It's more realistic to do it when their frame size has maximized, when they've reached the maximum frame size, and their ability to grow taller as well as longer has just gone to 0. That's the opportune time to get these cattle fat. But yep, but that can take like a longer time than they'll have here. But that's it from me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.